I broke my gimbal off the plate last weekend using Active Track. This is video taken from my phone. Active Track was working perfectly, and you'll see here in a minute obstacle avoidance worked perfectly. I did a manual override and moved it to the side to get around the iceberg, and ran sideways into the other iceberg. I received my new gimbal plate from eBay. It's pretty fast shipping too. It took 5 days, I think. We're in Alaska, so we're used to slow shipping. So I was quite surprised that I got it by the weekend. It's a piece of ABS plus plastic. Looks nothing like the original, but its form and function are exactly the same. So here's what a gimbal looks like after it's hit an iceberg. It actually snapped off the original plate. You can still see the screws in there attached to the gimbal with the broken piece of the plate. I have to remove that first. There's the original plate. All the rubber bands are still intact, so it's in good shape. There's what I'm going to replace it with. I checked the ribbon cable, it seems to be okay. Still getting live video out of the gimbal and camera. I'm going to take these screws out of the gimbal. First thing I did was take off these covers. These covers are kind of tricky. Once you get the screw out, I used a little, very small slotted screwdriver to pop it out of there. It just snaps into place. So there's 6 screws up on top, need to be removed, these 2 back ones. And then all the ones in the battery compartment you can see there's 4 of those. So there's 4 on the bottom too. Those need to come out. Now there's a cable that's plugged into the back, so as you lift the back up, before you separate it, you need to get that connector off of there. Now the whole top half will come off. See where that white connector was? That's pretty easy to get out of there. So now there's some RTV on these connectors that need to be cut before they can pop off. All 4 of these connectors have got to come off. There's a little white connector that needs to come off as well. Now we need to remove 4 of these screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those 4 have got to come out. Now the gimbal is going to come right out of there. Be careful of the ribbon cables. And note where that white cable runs in. You'll want to remember that when you put it back in. Got to remove the rubber bands from the original plate. That's a little tricky. I use these tweezers here. Got to be careful. Get all 4 of those corners off so you can pull that original plate out. Got the original plate out. Now I'm removing the connector. This is the cable that you're going to have to run through your new gimbal plate. And then you have to put the screws into the new plate onto the gimbal to hold it in place. Should probably put Loctite on these screws. And now the tricky part is to getting them back into the rubber bands. I use these pliers here. Expanded the loop and then slid it over the top. Seemed to work pretty well. Again, you'll want to be careful with these rubber bands. Hate to break one. Get all 4 of those corners done. Then bring your cable up and snap the connector back in. That's what it should look like after you're done getting your new gimbal plate in. Just slide it back in there, plug that white connector back in, put those 4 screws back in in reverse order. Make sure all 4 of the connectors are connected back up. Now get this plug back into that connector. It's not too difficult. Would have been nice if the DJI engineers would have left us a little longer cable, but that's okay. That snaps down into place. Putting the 4 bottom screws back in. Snap these back into place, these covers, and put the screws back in. Other side. This one was kind of tricky, didn't want to get in there. But they snap right in, trust me. So now all we have left are the 6 screws on top, 2 in the back, and 4 in the battery compartment. Now to test the gimbal. Looks like it's working. Self-test. Now to test the gimbal movement. Nice and smooth. Looks like it works.